Welcome all to the hunt, and today we shall be hunting the apex of all, the Runer Nergigante. What an interesting creature, but a fascinating one to hunt and to perfectly understand. First of all, this thing, it takes a long time to actually be able to hunt it. You have to wait until MR 100 until you have the ability to just simply hunt it. Even as you encounter it in the main story, you can't actively get rewards out of it for a very, very long time. And that is unfortunate because Runer Nergigante is exactly what Arc-Tempered Nergigante should have been in the original. Unfortunately, that's how it is. The original Arc-Tempered Nergigante had a lot of problematic. The slam dunk wasn't a fun move, but the Runer pretty much cancels all of those bads and put them all in a great basket because of its additional moveset in kit that just makes it that much more fun. It has all of the original assets of the Nergigante except of the die bond that has been substantially changed into a much more effective method of dodging it, which we will see now. As you saw, he raised his hand and is slamming down so that he can burst spikes, metal spikes out of his body to do devastating damage and inflict bleed as well, which is a very, very hard thing to circumvent. So let's quickly go over his new moves and how it affects the fight. So first of all, the main thing that you will have to watch out for when it comes to Runer Nergigante is whenever he needs to slap down his arms or his forelegs into the ground. If he has metal spikes, because he has two sets of spikes, now he has the boating one, he's got the metal spikes one which is the usual beige, and the other one that's clearly metal color. If he has metal spikes on those part of his body, what will happen is that he'll burst spikes and spew it out to cover essentially his entire side. That's hyper dangerous. Unbelievably dangerous, and just getting down to the pattern and understanding when he's slamming down, when he's crusting his forelegs in to burst those spikes is what makes it really dangerous. His dive bomb is incorporated this fairly easily, and his dive bomb is an easy move that he can grow out of his spikes from, which is where he gets his super regeneration ability, which is different than the original since he has theoretically three phases: normal, regeneration, and super generation, and all three of them are somewhat different, which we will go over once we get to the map. So that's the main issue that you gotta avoid: the ground burst and the metal spikes and how they affect you. In fact, let's go a little bit what happens in the death zone and the range you gotta watch out for when you're fighting the Runer Nergigante. So, whenever you're fighting a Runer Nergigante, if he needs to slap down or dive bomb in, and you see that his right hand comes up, that means that he will try to dive in you with his right side. So just move to his left, and you should be able to completely avoid and dodge any damage or the attack whatsoever. That's the death zone right there. Here's the death zone. Gotta watch out for it. Same thing on the left side. So if he's going with his left hand up, you will smash it down with that one. However, I think this one thing we don't see in this footage particularly, but you gotta watch out for also, is that if you see that both of his hands are raised up before he goes for the dive bomb move, that means he's going to go forward. In that case, just do like the original dive bomb, which is to say, you just Superman dive to make sure that you'll be safe, since he will burst down spikes from his top, from his head, which makes it a lot more dangerous. Now, let's quickly go over his math, because there's a lot of things to talk about when it comes to math. As previously stated, you have three different states when it comes to the Runer Nergigante: normal, regeneration, and super generations. As you can see, this chart is quite big. It may be one of the longest, if not the longest list that we have thus far, so let's quickly go over it. Average of 40, the horns at 20 when they're broken, 35. Head at 45 if it's normal. The head when regenerating is 75. Super regeneration is 20. Stomach 35. Back 30. Forearms 50, in generation it's 70, in super it's 20, hind legs 35, wings 40, regeneration it's 55, and super it's 28, tail at 45, and the tip at 45, the tail tip and regeneration 65, and the tail tip and super regeneration is 10. So, what does it all mean? When he doesn't have spikes on him, not metal spikes, just bone-ish spikes, that's your base. when he has spikes growing off of him, the bone ones, that's regeneration. When the spikes are blacking out, that's super regeneration, essentially. That's what it's telling you. And that's what you should watch out for. And just like the original Nergigante, the best way to fight the Runer is by being just as aggressive as the monster itself. As you just saw, that is the most effective strategy against the Nergigante. Stun lock him by consistently destroying the bone spikes from his forelegs. You will trip him consistently, effectively, and very reliably. It's the most efficient way. And not only that, you get a lot, and I do mean a lot of breaks out of Runer. Like a lot of breaks when it comes to Runer. You have not only a chance to break the bone spikes, but the metal spikes acts essentially as a second arm break, just like the head. So you can break off the metal spikes to also trip him, although they act more like a traditional hit zone value where they have a threshold of a health pool that you need to take away with. Now, with that said, this challenge would be significantly easier if you could trip lock the Runer Nergigante if you had more damage. His bone spikes have legitimately a decent amount of health to it that you either have to burst down or be able to really sustain and effectively track the pathing and the attack of the Runer. Otherwise, you're gonna have a hell of a time doing so, such as I did. The only reason why I have that much issue fighting a Runer as I did now is because I didn't have all my other attack elements that would make him trip consistently. Which is why I find this fight substantially difficult. Then again, the original Nergigante is just as difficult because you need to be as aggressive as a monster. Runer is just that much more dangerous just because of the burst of the metal spikes. His dive bomb is now readable in some way. It seems like the regeneration is faster to me somehow, some way. And although you can trip lock him just like the original, and although it's easier to do than the original, his increased health pool and damage is that also incredibly dangerous to deal with. And please, please, you should watch out for it. So, in recap, your best shot at fighting the Runer Nergigante is constantly sliding from his left side to his right side and vice versa. And only you do this to avoid as many damaging abilities as possible as he always go one in. Look and learn to read the pattern as to how he behaves. Look at the hands, especially so. The forelegs are by far your most efficient tool of understanding how the Runer is going to move and your best way of fighting him. Additionally, you should also make sure to understand that proper spacing, you could be very far away and still get bursted down by his metal spikes. You gotta be very, very self-conscious about your way of going, as well as dealing with the bleeding. Since you're Naked Monster Hunter Challenge, you shouldn't have to deal with the bleeding too much, since a one-shot is pretty much every attack in his entire pool. Always go in when his bones are soft, in normal regeneration, to make sure that you have your best shot at dealing the most effective amount of damage as possible, as well as just completely destroying him, stun locking him, trip locking him. Dual blades aren't the best way to go in this fight, unfortunately, but they are a fairly efficient way to go about it. Personally, I would go for something that I can also do with counter, so you can iframes a little bit better his normal moves, which is say the metal burst or the slam down that you can foresight slash through and stuff like that. But again, tripping king of all, dual blades, since you can already cause trips, it should be fine. I really love Runer Nergigante. I think it's that much more better than the original, although it is a very tricky fight. You guys, go try him out. He's actually really fun and a challenging fight to say the least. But I couldn't do it, unfortunately. We'll see you all for another hunt.